Hey everyone, in the last video I showed you how to take down your Beretta 92X Performance and remove the safety, the hammer, trigger bar, trigger, all that. The only thing I did not show you is how to remove the sear and the sear spring. To do that, all you have to do is just punch out this little pin, but it's a little bit of a hassle, and I just didn't want to do that in this video. And really it's exactly the same as any other Beretta 92 sear. There's hundreds of videos on those, so if you need to know how to do that, you can look up one of those. So here is the best way I have found to reassemble your 92X Performance. So I've already put the hammer strut back down in here. Make sure it goes in this direction, and you can just let it go down in there. It only fits one way, and when you put the spring back in, it'll push against the hammer and find its way to the right place. Then we want to put our hammer back in, like so, and you'll be, you can kind of see it there, you'll be pushing against the sear as you do this. We want to take our bushing that retained the hammer and slide it down in there. Just like that. And now our hammer is where it's supposed to be. I usually prefer letting all the spring tension out whenever I'm working on these. So to do that, just push on the sear just a little bit, push it forward, and you can move the hammer into the uncocked position with your fingers. Okay, now the somewhat tricky part is putting the safety back together. First, we want to reinstall our little safety detent here. It goes in this orientation, and we will put it down in that little hole there. If your spring came out, be sure that your spring goes in there first. Hopefully your spring did not come out, so shouldn't be an issue. Now, again, this is the best way I've figured out how to do it. We're going to put our safety from the right side in first, and you're going to need to push down with your finger or another little tool on that detent just to get this past there. Now what you want to do is, that detent has a sharpened point, which you can see. We want to get that sharpened point, you heard it right there, we want to get that in that retention hole. Now that hole is where the roll pin will go through the other side of the safety and into that to hold it together. So this is not how it ends up permanently, but this will help you a lot in reassembly. So we're going to take our left side safety, put it in the correct orientation, and you can just barely fit it on there, just barely. And kind of takes 8 hands to do this, especially with a camera. There we go. Now what's going to help you is we want to take a small punch. This is a 1/16 punch, and we're going to put it through that hole right here. And what we're trying to do is we're just trying to push down on this detent here. which you can see like that. And when we're pushing down on it, that will let us push the left side safety into position. Having it lined up with that hole just makes things a lot easier, lets us know exactly where that detent is, or plunger, whatever you want to call it. And then we can hopefully reassemble this a lot easier. And you shouldn't need a hammer or anything. You should be able to just do this with your hands. You just want to push down, and there it went. Once the left side safety moves, you can remove your punch, and you can push the left side in all the way. There we go. Okay, now your right side safety can still move in and out, which is what we need for the trigger bar to go back into place, which is right here. Now we want to put actually we want to get our trigger first. That would be helpful. Just like so. And when we put the back end of our trigger in, you can see this part just slides right into that channel and into this little notch here. So put it in that way. Then we want to line up the top hole in our trigger with the trigger bar. Put it in that way. Push it in there, and then we can squeeze the safety together. Should be good. Yep. Okay. And then we can put our trigger bar spring back in. Again, there's the little hole that you want to put that hook in. Push down on it. Push the rounded part into that little slot that's milled out there. And I usually just take my fingernail, push it down, and of course it didn't work that time. Try that again. There we go. Put it in the slot. And then there you go. Just like that. And from here, it's pretty much the same as any other Beretta 90 series. Just reassemble it as you would any other. For me, the worst part is always this trigger spring. Best way I've found to do it is just drop it in there. And I like trying to use something like this to just push on that trigger, or on that trigger spring, get it into place, and just hope it doesn't shoot back out at you. There you go. Right like that. And then we want to put our slide release in. If your spring fell out like mine did, all you have to do is take it this way, here's your slide release itself. Put the hook in like that, and you want the part without the hook to come and catch on that lever right there. Then I always just kind of pinch the spring against the body of the slide release with my finger like that. And I put the spring in first, like so. Make sure it's seated well like that. And then kind of rotate it into that hole and just kind of push it along that way as you're doing that. And it has spring tension here, so it wants to rotate down this way. So make sure you're keeping a little bit of pressure on it as you're pushing it in. Get it over that little lip right there, and it's in place. Okay, now this is maybe the more difficult part. You want to put the little roll pin down in that hole right there. Try to do this and give you a good angle at the same time. And grab some tweezers, actually. Okay. We have it just barely started in the hole, as you can see there. And we want to take our punch and try to line it up as best as possible, and just lightly tap it in. I think you probably heard there that these two were not lined up quite right. Okay. Yeah. Okay, now they should be lined up correctly, but you still want to have that roll pin, excuse me, all the way seated into that hole. So we'll just continue here. Sometimes switching to a smaller roll pin punch is a little helpful. So it won't jump on you. Okay, I believe that should be seated. And the last thing to do is just put your grips back on your slide, and you should be done. Do a function check here. Helps to have the takedown lever down. There we go. I did forget to put the spring back in, so that would be helpful. The thing is to install the hammer spring, which I've done here, and the hammer spring cap, and the roll pin that retains that. Do make sure that your hammer is down. That will make everything a whole lot easier. One thing that usually works for me is to grab through the holes in the grip like that, and then just kind of push with my thumb and get it all lined up there. Get it started. Get it in place with the soft side of the mallet. And then we can seat it the rest of the way with our punch. Make sure it didn't come through on the other side, and we're good. And other than the grips, that's it. Do a quick function check. Single action works. Reset works. Double action works. Works that way. Safety works that way. And works that way. Good to go. And hope that helps a lot of people. And thanks for watching.